Hi, this is John Williams coming to you from my home office in Henderson, Nevada. The video you are about to see is a compilation of stories about how GIA wellness products are impacting people in the most positive way. I hope you enjoy hearing these stories from real people getting real results.
Hey, this is Marshal Joe from Utopia, Texas. I've been involved with GIA for well over a year now, and been using GIA products for over a year. I joined GIA last July. I've been working for Tracy Hillis for several years now, and that was my first exposure to GIA products. And I work in an Inspired Wellness office, and I have an Inspired Wellness home. And just something that I kind of just want to quickly point out about that is that it's an environment that you can feel when you work in an Inspired Wellness environment and that's protected by GIA products. It's definitely an environment that you can feel. I noticed soon after I started working in the office that Tracy has completely protected. There's an energy, there's a feeling that is unlike any other work environment that I've ever been around. And, it's something I noticed, and I never, paid any mind to it, or, I never said anything about it until I realized that every piece of electronic in the office is protected by universal guards, by the home harmonizer. Tracy has hooked it up. So, I said something to her a while back about, how just the energy in the office is noticeably different than any other work environment I've ever been in. And it's very obvious to me. And my home is fully protected. And so when people come over to my house, it's something that they notice as well without me having to say anything about, oh, I have a harmonizer in the wall, or I have a universal guard on everything. I don't even have to say anything, and people notice that it feels different than other places. And so it's pretty cool for me to be able to start up a conversation with people about GIA, because that's something they're noticing on their own. And it may not be the same testimony everybody has, but it's just something that I've noticed in my life, and I just want to point that out because maybe other people are realizing the same thing. I don't know, but I love it.
Hey, it's Pam Wimmer from Beaverton, Oregon. I just like to say that I'm so happy to see you all tonight. And I have a friend named Kelly, and she was a police officer spending lots of time in police cars with all those electronics, and she became very, very ill. And she wasn't ever being diagnosed by any doctor. They tried every kind of treatment imaginable. But not making any medical claims here, but she had a flare-up. Her mother called me and said, Pam, do you think your products would help her? And I said, well, I don't know, but let's try it. So I had a whole Inspired Wellness home sitting here in my house, ready to go. I loaded up some water, some Thrive, some Cleanse, and all the Smart Meter Defender and home harmonizers, everything she needed. A pendant, cell guards for her and her husband. I just loaded them up and sent it out. And I told Sandra how to set it all up. And she went out there, set the whole thing up. And apparently Kelly was in a very, very bad space when she got out there. And she set it all up. And then within minutes, really, Kelly said she felt it just kind of calm down, and it was unbelievable. And she said she tried everything to get better. Doctors treated her for all kinds of things, and nothing helped. And so here she is putting protection on her EMF, and all of a sudden her body is starting to feel better. And she started taking the Thrive and Cleanse, and that's really helped her. She's just thrilled. She hadn't left the house in about a year, and she needed to be with her husband at some meetings for several days in a row, and she was able to go and be in those meetings. I mean, it is amazing. So we're saying that, she was electrosensitive and nobody could ever figure it out. And so we're so thankful. She's thankful. I tried to get a hold of her today, but I didn't hear back to be on the call and give her her own story. But it's just so exciting to be able to help somebody like that, because that I'm feeling so grateful that it helped her.
I'm Ming Lovejoy from Kalispell, Montana, and I really want to share the story of a friend who is a dentist. And some of you haven't heard from him for a little while, but he's still very, very actively involved in GIA Wellness. And it's Dr. Gabriel Pradesh. And it was several years ago when I encountered him. Actually, one of my consultants encountered him, shared with him the possibility of helping patients actually with the eye water, because he had some patients who were struggling with some chronic infections. What he did was he had read a lot of the research about the eye water, and what he found, he says, I just want to try this on my patients. Well, he did his own clinical observation, and within the first week to week and a half, these patients were just saying that they were feeling better, the infections were going away. So I know that we're not allowed to make any medical claims at all, but what I wanted to share this because he did this as a clinical observation based on the science that has been published about the eye water system. So that was just one. But really what he did next was he really understood comprehensively the problem, even in his own office, with the exposure he and his hygienist had to all of the equipment that they had in the office. So what he did was he completely created an inspired wellness office, became the first, bio-friendly wireless dentist office in probably the United States. And this was several years ago. And what was really interesting was his hygienists and even his patients noticed that there was just something sort of calmer about the office. Now, he had actually put universal guards on every device, and you can imagine in a medical office, even the x-ray equipment, all of the devices that are used, the blue curing lights, all of those things. And they noticed a sort of palpable, calmer feeling in the office. What he also did was send out a letter to all of his patients, letting them know what he had done, and in incorporating these solutions in his office. And he had just incredible feedback, some really heartwarming interactions with patients who shared with him, I don't even really understand what you did, but it's apparent that you really care about us. So I just wanted to share that story because many years later, he is still, and this was, like I said, several years ago, he's really still sharing GIA Wellness, still using the products every day, the nutritionals. He particularly loves the GIA Edge because he says even, at his age, continuing in his practice, he's in, I'll share, and he's in his early 70s. It keeps him very productive, keeps him alert. He loves that. He loves the Edge. And the iThrive is an absolute staple, essential in his life because of the vitamin mineral profile as well as the high antioxidants. And I know he takes some of the other ones as well. The Heart Fit. In fact, I will say this too, is that a combination of the iThrive and the Edge and the Heart Fit enabled his blood pressure to stabilize in such a way that his doctor took him off of 2 out of 3 of his medications. So with that, I know that I might be bordering on some of those. I don't want to say I'm making any medical claims because we certainly are not able to do that. But these are things that happened to Dr. Gabriel Pradesh here in Kalispell, Montana, and I just wanted to share with people tonight. Thank you, John.
Hey, I'm Kedzie Morgan from Cave Creek, Arizona, where it's 95 degrees today in April. So I'd like to share some of the things that this thinking about all of our experiences over time. I'm going to include something that I think people may forget about a little bit because we always talk about wireless, but I'd like to include a home harmonizer story in a store. Actually, it's more of a food juice bar kind of place. They do have some other products. And the way that they have their front area where they make the juices and take the money, and their sort of command central area is made up of two commercial refrigerators that have that curved glass, beautiful display, and they're at a right angle to one another, making their area that they work behind. Commercial refrigeration, which I have a lot of knowledge about, having 20 years of food stores, keeping things fresh and cold. It's one thing to understand how they work, but it's another thing to know how much dirty electricity, as we call it, they put out. Their seating is right next to this continuously running 24 hours a day. Commercial refrigeration doesn't always cycle, especially if it's not a freezer. It doesn't turn off to defrost. It just keeps on running. So when I've been there in this cute place, I have to bring my own harmonizer, because I come in, I plug it in, because I have sat there when I haven't had that harmonizer where I cannot sit without feeling irritated, prickly. It's affecting my skin. It feels like needles and pins coming into me. So when I come in and I plug it in about 10 minutes, I really don't want to leave, because suddenly the air feels, and someone described it there as whipped. It kind of billows, and it feels like fresh air that's not quite moving. I mean, air moves in the place, but it's not like wind. It's just kind of coming around you. And it's just an amazing experience to be in such a concentrated environment and witnessing what the home harmonizer does. Because a lot of people plug it in, they just say, I believe, I don't know what it's doing. But when you are in a scenario like that and you feel it so instantaneously, it's within about 10 minutes that I experienced that. Another really quick one I want to explain about our center of our universe, our eye water, is with a chiropractor that I used to have, who I always said had x-ray vision. He always scanned your biofield, as we know, before ever adjusting the person. And I had purposely, when I received my eye water unit, I just went ahead and drank a whole lot. I wouldn't say how much here, but a lot. And because I was fully aware of what detoxification may look like for me. So I went ahead and drank quite a bit. And I remained, I did not make an appointment with him for 30 days. And for some reason in my mind, I said, I need a 30-day trial period, experiment period. And so I presented myself, stood there, and he scanned and scanned and scanned and scanned, and he kept on looking and looking and looking. And finally, as I'm turning blue, because I don't want to say what I have been doing for the last 30 days, finally he says, Kedzie, I know it's you standing there. However, and he waves his hands around me, that's not you. What in the world have you been doing? And so I was so excited to hear that, because a person with a gift like that can see changes from drinking water, our miraculous water, is just such a gift to me, to everyone. And he got everything right away. He said, get me all that. And so he began telling his patients about it. So there's so many more, but I will stop there. Thank you.
This is Tracy Hillis. I live in Utopia, Texas, and I'm so excited to share my GIA product experiences. When I first found out about GIA, I was in a rather bad state health-wise. I was stressed out. I was dehydrated. I was doing everything right. I was drinking lots of water. I was taking my vitamins. I was eating right, but I was stressed out. I was so tired, and I couldn't figure out why. I was doing research and trying to do everything that I thought was right, but what I discovered is that my office was hooked up with all these electronics that were affecting me, and I had no idea. I mean, I live in Utopia, Texas, where the population is 150, and we're rural. We live in the country, and you think that you've got all this fresh air, and it's a healthy place to live, but my environment wasn't healthy. And so a good friend walked in through the door and said, what's going on? Where's that cheerleader that I was expecting to see when I walked through the door? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. And that's when he handed me a flyer and told me about GIA and about their products and about this amazing water. And I'm like, well, you know, to me, water's water, but I'm like, I'm willing to try anything at this point. I'm desperate. I need my energy back. My son was going to be getting married. We were building a house, and there was just so many things going on, and I needed my energy back. And so I just decided to invest in the products, and I did. Got them all in, brought them into my home, brought them into my office, and within 2 weeks, I noticed that my energy had come back. I had clarity in my mind. I felt like myself again. But one of the really exciting things that we discovered that Dwayne just reminded me about was that at the time, we had this little Jack Russell Fox Terrier mixed puppy, and he was hyper. He was off the charts hyper. And which, you know, most people expect the Jack Russell to be like that. But when I got my home, had an Inspired Wellness home, and I plugged in the harmonizer in our bedroom, and I put the universal guards in all of our products, all of our stuff, and started drinking the water and putting the water down for the dog, we just noticed that when he would come in, he would just be so chilled. He would go and jump on our bed and sit right there in the corner, right where the harmonizer was. And it was just like a totally different dog. And so Dwayne would take him in his truck and go off and travel all over the place, and he would be bouncing off the walls. But when he came into our office, he would come into the office and he would just go and curl up in the chair, curl up on the rug. You could tell that he was being affected by this amazing positive energy. And so from that point on, it was like, we were just, oh my gosh, I couldn't wait to tell everybody about it, because we were so amazed about the positive energy that we're experiencing with all the GIA products. So I'm forever going to be able to tell everybody about how amazing GIA is and how they have totally changed and transformed our lives.
Well, hi, my name is Donald Tumim. I live in Beaverton, Oregon, and I have an interesting story. I'm a health practitioner, and so I've known that electromagnetics were important, and I've always usually had something on my phone to protect myself. But I put stuff around the house, and I didn't really pay attention or know very much. But I was actually talking to John one day, and he said, well, are you wearing the pendant? And I said, well, the pendant's pretty valuable. I'm kind of reserving it to sell to somebody. And he said, put it on. I put it on, and within an hour, my wife asked me to do something on the computer. And most of the time when I've been asked to do something technical like that, it's really stressful for me. It's hard for me to do it, and I growl and whatever, and I've been doing that for the last several years. And all of a sudden I said, well, I can fix that. And I was going in it, and it was like 15 minutes into it, I said, you know, that's not the way I normally act. And I've been, what I noticed, and then I said, well, God, there's something going on. And so then I started making my whole home really secure and handmade something and put it on my smart meter and did all sorts of stuff. And what I noticed was, in about 2 weeks later, I was out walking our dog, and I noticed for the first time in forever that these negative thoughts had left my head. I mean, I had been constantly dealing with this and saying positive affirmations and all sorts of stuff. I had no idea where it was coming from, but I just thought, you know, that's the way it was. And that's the remarkable thing about this, is that I had problems and things going on that I didn't know what was causing it, and I just figured that was the way it was. And then when I changed everything, the light went on. It was totally different, but it's hard to explain to people unless you've been there. And it's made such a difference in my health. My energy has gotten better. There's all sorts of things. And I feel like moving out in my life and doing new things, whereas before I was just trying to survive. So that's really important for me, to make sure that other people get the message, because they may not know what's going on until they've tried this.
Hi, I'm Kayleen, and I live in Chandler, Arizona. And I had the privilege this weekend of being able to participate in a conference in Utah. And I just want to share a quick little story about the eye water that a lady came to my booth and told me about, and it was really exciting. So she said that she had actually met someone from GIA a year ago, and she purchased the water pitchers so that she could create eye water in her own home. And her daughter had a flaky sort of rash thing on her head that would peel off and have really gross stuff, and she couldn't get rid of it. She had tried everything she could think of to get rid of this rash on her daughter's head. And the person that was at the booth suggested that she spritz the head with eye water, and she said, you know, it might take some time for it to go away, but it should help it heal. And the lady got choked up as she was telling me this story, because she said within about 5 or 6 applications of just spraying the eye water on my daughter's head, this rash cleared up and is totally gone, and it has not come back. So I just thought that that was a really cool story to share.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Sue Bromberg from Jackson, Wyoming, and I joined GIA pretty close to the beginning. And this is a story from long ago, but really why I wanted to tell is because there's an amazing ripple effect that happens when you yourself start experiencing what an inspired wellness home can do for you. And that's what happened to my husband, Don, and I. We started using all of the products, and our home became such an inspiring place and a welcome place for people to be, because it was a calm place that people really enjoyed being in. And at that time, there was a lot of anxiety going on in the planet. You know, the economy was terrible, and, you know, it allowed us to actually endure that stressful time in a much easier way than if we had not been protected in our home and wearing pendants and enjoying the experience of what GIA Wellness products can do. And at that time, I decided to help a friend of mine who was opening and had a compounding pharmacy. And, you know, in a compounding pharmacist's office, there are so many pieces of equipment. And yet you have people coming in who are stressed out because their health is all in disarray. So what we did was I introduced GIA to this compounding pharmacist, and she protected her entire office and pharmacy area. And when I was working there, people would come in and they would say, gosh, I felt so much worse when I walked in the door than I do now. And it just was a way in which people were starting to recognize what an inspired office felt like. And my friend actually started helping the other employees to start creating inspired wellness homes of their own. And the bookkeeper translated that into, I've got to talk to my daughter, because they had a child who was born, and this particular child never slept through the night. She was now 2 years old. She was a child who was just so incredibly active that she was disruptive to any social gathering that they had. And so here they were having Thanksgiving dinner, and my friend now, who was the bookkeeper at the pharmacy, went to Thanksgiving dinner, and the same activity was happening. This child was just disrupting the entire activity of that social gathering. And my friend picked up her grandchild, took her to another room, and changed her diaper and took off the pendant that she was wearing and slipped it into the child's little jeans pocket and didn't tell anyone. And she went back into the area where everyone was, and the little child started running around. And in about 10 minutes, she walked up to her mom and asked for her doll. And her mother kind of, okay, gave her the doll, and she very happily sat down on the floor and started playing with her doll. And her mom said, okay, what did you do to her when you left the room? And she goes, well, I'm not going to tell you till later. And so that evening, when my friend Carol was leaving, she said, look, I want you to put your hand in your daughter's pocket and pull out my pendant. That's what I did. And she said, oh my God, she said, I'm a believer. I would love to have one of those. Can I keep that? She said, no, you cannot keep that, but I'll tell you what I have in my purse that you can have. I'm going to give you a home harmonizer. And I want you to plug that in to your daughter's room, wall socket, and see what happens. That child slept through the night for the first time in her 2 years. And the next day, we had another inspired wellness home for that child. And the thing that I want to say is that the ripple effect that we have when we recognize what's happening to us and we share that with someone else, that is story after story of hearing someone get such incredible relief, not just for the child sleeping. Those parents were so incredibly happy that they now had the ability to sleep through the night themselves, and it really changed the whole harmony of their household. And that's what we have to give. And so from one inspired wellness home to an inspired wellness office to another inspired wellness home, that's what we have. And GIA is just something that I will never stop sharing with people.
Hey, this is Doc White from Hermitage, Tennessee. I've got a story tonight that's very interesting. It has to do with a young man that is autistic, nonverbal, and they were over to the house the other day, and he was having a pretty good challenge with everything. In fact, he got to the point where he was kind of jumping up and down and having fits and doing everything. So Anita went in, grabbed a smart card, and ended up with it in his back pocket. And it was amazing. And I had moved a home harmonizer into that room too. And so when that went into his pocket, within 10 minutes, he was like a new kid, just quiet and peaceful. I got the story right?
That's right.
It was just peaceful as it could be. And he was that way at home, slept all night. Haven't heard tonight how he went to school, but other than the fact that his mom did say when he was home, he was nice and quiet and easygoing. So I hadn't heard from the teacher yet till I talked with Leanne later. But an interesting, quick story.
The mom, she was just really, became very emotional because of the difference in him within 10 minutes. And he was just a much calmer person, and he was flipping through some of the little things that he gave, and even smiling and laughing. And so when she got home, she said he was still just so calm and everything. She took a picture of it and sent it to us because he was standing there, smiling and happy and calm. And she was just really taken back with it.
So we're looking forward to that story continuing. They do not have an inspired wellness home at this point. They have a smart card and some eye water, by the way.
Hi, I'm Marge Meltzer, and I have a natural cosmetics store in Prescott Valley, Arizona. And I've been selling the GIA products for a year now, and I've actually have a little testimonial book that I've been filling out with people's testimonials. And one of the very first testimonials I have in this book is of a customer of mine, and she has been suffering for about, I think, 5 to 8 years with a very debilitating disease that causes tremors. And when she would come into my store to make purchases, she was not able to easily write her name on the credit card receipt. So I introduced her to the GIA products last summer, and she started drinking the eye water, and she could see a little bit of change, and so she decided to go ahead and purchase a unit for herself and get the Eye Thrive and Cleanse, and also wear the pendant. And I saw her then a few months later. She came into my store, and I was just amazed at how much better her quality of life had been. I did leave out a little bit of a story. She came to a presentation at my store during this time, And we were talking about her mobility issues, and so she put on a couple of smart strips around her wrists, and she had them on for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden she started flinging her hands like this rapidly, and she was just like all excited, and she said, "Here, give me a piece of paper, you know, and I'm going to try to write my name." And so from wearing the smart strips around her wrists, she was able to write her name legibly, which she couldn't do for a very long period of time. And she was able to have more mobility with her movements with her arms. And so now it's been quite a few months later, and she has reported to me that she continues to do well, and that she has cut down her medication in half, and that her doctors are just really amazed at the wonderful progress that she's made. I don't know if she's told them exactly what she's using, but it's a wonderful story for her.
Amanda Jensen. I'm from Lytton, British Columbia, Canada. I'm an organic farmer. I have sheep and goats and chickens and other animals as well. So my eye water jug will not last 39 years because it's going from morning till night. And we take down as much as I can manage to make during a day. The goats are getting, because there's about 20 of them, I guess, so they're getting, I don't know how many gallons a day. And the sheep get about a little less than a gallon. I have to get another unit so I can make twice as much. But goats, I am an organic farmer. They eat very well. I live in a clean area in the mountains. And so I do everything for them I can. And as far as goats go, they get along relatively well. But goats can be pretty persnickety and very challenging to each other. And they're so much calmer. Their fur is more silky. When I first started giving it to them, I noticed that their eyes were running, and then that stopped. And I noticed they were agitated because everyone was going through detox. Then that stopped, and they're just doing so much better. And all the kids that they had, they're just doing amazing. They're so calm and so easygoing. They're vital. I've had no issues really, other than one mom rejected one, but even he's doing very well. And so I have one lamb and one goat that I'm bottle feeding, and they get eye water in their bottles, so they're doing very well as well. The horses, and Zenny, who's on the call as well, she takes water down to the horses, and they really like it. She can give you more stories about that, I'm sure. They get 2 liters. The chickens, I've got 80 chickens, and they get 2 liters of water a day. Everybody is getting it, and they will get more once I get another unit and can keep on top of things. But I am thrilled too. I'm spraying in my eyes, and I'm spraying my skin. The age spots have gone mostly off the side of my face, and I'm very, very happy about that. Because I've nearly died from kidney issues. Dehydration is an issue because my kidneys get taxed. The eye water, I make chaga tea out of the eye water. I don't drink a lot of coffee, but when I do have a coffee, I make my organic coffee out of eye water. We just do everything out of eye water. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I can't say enough.
Hey, I'm Anita White from Nashville, Tennessee, and this is a story about our cat. Everyone in the neighborhood loves our cat. His fur is just so slick and so fluffy, and he used to be very, very aggressive, but we put him on eye water, and in fact, I started putting in his canned food, I'd put a little bit of eye water in there, stir it up, make a little more of a gravy. He will not eat it unless I put the eye water in it. You put out regular water and eye water, he will not touch the other. In fact, he looks back at you like, "Are you crazy?" And he goes straight over to the eye water. And we do not use any things for fleas or anything like that on him. Haven't for the last couple of years. And he doesn't have fleas, and or gets them, and other ones around the neighborhood will. but he's just a really laid back, beautiful cat, and everybody just loves to pet him. And he lays out the side of the road and you know, just wants people to come by and pet him. You know? But he is an eye water cat.